lagging still?
Not anymore, no.
All right,
Welcome.
cool.
Welcome, Salvatore, my very close friend. Third time on the podcast. Welcome back.
Co-host at this point, but thank you.
No, you said last time that I didn't post that you didn't want to be a co-host. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but did King Arthur really want to become king? No, he just pulled the sword out and the power was bestowed upon him. So
True.
I'm just sort of in the same book.
I will say this though. The podcast has changed tremendously since you've been on last.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen, it's like professional now.
It's something.
Yeah, it's something.
Why did you make the Yeti like upside down like that?
What do you mean? Just the way it's like currently hanging?
Yeah, I've never seen someone use a Yeti upside down before.
With the caster setup, I believe that's the way it's supposed to hang, because it's like I can't rotate this bar upside down, and like the way the desk mount is, I want to say this is correct. I've seen a lot of people. It's gonna fuck up my audio, but I'll do it a little bit. I've seen a lot of people like swing the mic out. Oh fuck, my whole filter's on it. I'm not gonna fuck with it. But anyway, I've seen a lot of people have this facing this way.
Yeah.
So like the whole mic setup's rotated. Picture this circle going that way. So it's rotated like 180 degrees, so it sticks out even further from the arm. But because of my setup and like my desk space, it's just easier for me to have it kind of folded inward. Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't know. I think it looks better to me anyway. Other than like, because it's like you have this big long arm and then this oblong like shape like sticking off of it even further, and then just like the mic dangling. This kind of keeps everything in like a batter's box, if you will. But I don't know. I mean, if it works, it works, right? Fuck it.
No, yeah, definitely. This is the one that comes with the condenser podcast mic that I have. I have two of them, and I hate these things because they're good for music making, I would say, but like I like this. The only problem I was gonna say I have with that is like your face is covered, like so you look like you're doing a radio show. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just bought this because I don't know. I had yet to see anyone online, and I'm sure there's thousands of people. I just hadn't seen any. I hadn't seen anyone with a like a foam like pop filter windscreen like over the mic itself. I've always seen people with pop filters on these, so I just bought a pop filter. Like this one was like $20, and it's got like metal. It's pretty much made of metal, as opposed to like the little like mesh. So I don't know. It's
Yeah, pop filters are necessary because even I catch myself once in a while here and go, like. Yeah. But off of that, everybody's like, "Why are we talking about microphones right now?" Yeah, sorry, we're just nerds because this is what we do. But how you been? So I haven't really like chatted with you like face to face like this in a while. How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been hanging in there. Surviving, living out here, rocking in the free world. Oh shit! What about yourself? How you been?
I feel like I've been good. I miss podcasting. I haven't really had time to do a lot of episodes like I wanted to because football has been taking up a lot of my life. But it's a real how do we say this? It's a real priority check, I guess. It's because like I always forget that like my life is consisted of many things that's like simultaneously. Right. And now it's like I only have a certain amount of time for each thing that I love. So what's drastically important in my life right now is school and football, and podcasting is something that I do love and I want to get more into and everything, but that's, not the necessary and proper thing right now to cite the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, it's taking a back seat. Yeah, podcasting's taking a backseat for me as well. However, it's, unfortunately, the things currently in the driver's seat are things that I don't care about in life, like work and errands and chores and just shit that I need to do.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But I'm glad we're here now, and hopefully we find something worthwhile to talk about. Otherwise, this episode might end up like some of the other ones we've done, very much recycled.
No, I don't think that's true. I've developed a certain skill that I think
definitely.
I have a specific set of skills.
Oh yeah, this is
Liam Hemsworth or Liam Neeson.
Neeson. Yeah. We're hitting a fucking grand slam with this one, so let's get it started.
Yeah, no, like it's weird like talking to you right now about this because like I'm in podcast mode, and so I'm like I have my like set of like the way I speak to people when I'm on these podcasts, like people who I just had a virologist on, or like certain people, like because I've the countless guests that I've been having on are all like really like around 30K, you know. So
Yeah,
it's like the way I speak to them is differently than the way I speak to you. So it's weird, like me, like in my podcast mode speaking to you, because when I started this, like I was just like a guy with a mic talking to my friend, you know.
right. Also, I like how you say the countless guests, as if I couldn't easily count them.
There's 50 of them.
Then there you go. They've just been counted. Yeah. So I was gonna say I thought we were on like 48 or some shit like that, but you know.
I would say countless because it's hard for me to remember every episode. Like occasionally I'll catch like one of my friends or someone I know watching one of the episodes, like 20 or something, and I'm like, "Oh, that was a good talk," you know, because I can't remember all of them. I really remember the ones I recently did. And so my friend right now, actually Matt, who's in the other room, is watching my episode with John Gay, which is actually my most popular episode on YouTube. If you guys are listening, go check that out. But it's about he's a visionary artist, and he's very heavily articulate on psychedelics and things like that. So it's a very interesting episode to talk to somebody like that who creates this unimaginable beautiful art through a lens of someone who's lived a life that I've never even like touched, like dipped my toe into, you know.
Right. Well, I think that's just
Yeah, I have no idea what you're saying. You're just like gone. Like I cannot hear you at all. Are you listening at all? Yeah, can't hear you at all. We were talking about how
we were talking about how people explore different avenues of life, and
yeah.
that's why conversations are necessary to be had, and that's why you're the necessary person to be having them, Colin.
I don't know if I'm necessary. I just know that I'm someone who did it. You
I
know
don't know.
what's been fascinating me, Sal? What
Uh,
fascinates me is how people are fascinated with me. Like people like will hit me up, and people will like the amount of just like views like in streams that I have on my podcast, like it's unimaginable, like that, like and it's not even close to like a lot, you know, like the numbers that I really can't imagine. But it, like for me, like seeing the like numbers that like I hit like on like just one app alone just blows my mind. like like I'll give you an example. I don't know what it is now, but like 2 weeks ago, I before the fight, I was like just like checking my stats for Apple Podcasts and Spotify,
mhm.
and I was on Apple Podcasts, and for the last day, right, that last day, I had 64 hours of listeners. 64 hours of listeners in a day.
Well, first off, Colin, it's because of your guests. Nobody cares about you. Second, no, I mean, you know, I think the thing with you is you're really good at what you do and you carry very good interviews. And yes, the guests certainly help get people's foot in the door. But, you know, for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people are this way, if I listen to one podcast that I like, I'm going to scroll through that person's podcast, whether he, she, they, them, you know, dog, cat, whatever, and I'm gonna find other interviews with other people that I think are interesting, and I'm gonna say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I need to listen to this person." So you know, one thing always does lead to another in that situation, and yeah, I think that's just a very very common thing, and which is good. You know, it's not a bad thing to have your numbers kind of skyrocket, especially past your own expectations.
Yeah. Um, it's just like my friend put into perspective for me, like I kind of have a responsibility in what I say now.
Right.
There are kids listening to me. I don't know what a kid's doing listening to a podcast, but you know,
Learning.
I have a responsibility to not just say dumb shit, you know. I have
Right.
like it's put things into perspective. The first time that I really realized it was someone clipped something I said and sent it to me. And we're like, this isn't good. And I was like, that is not good. That is posted on YouTube. Um,
Oh, yeah, like just something that could like be easily taken out of context.
well, it was like, it wasn't like I was like doing anything wrong, but I was just like underage speaking on doing things when I was underage. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
it
You
was
should.
like,
But
are you promoting underage intakes of drugs? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. But like it could be easily taken because it's something I did on episode 15 is nothing compared to what I'm going to do on episode 470, you know? So
right when you move up to the real drugs, episode 470.
enough about me,
50
Sal.
past 50 past when you should be doing the drugs,
What
but
have you
still doing
been?
them nonetheless.
What? No, what were you going to
No, I was gonna say you go on.
say? What have you been like fantasizing about in a good way lately? Like, what have I can't be serious with you. Oh,
What have I been fantasizing about in a good way lately? No, I'll take this one seriously. I'll take this one seriously.
I hope so.
I'll leave all the chains and leather out of this one. Um, obviously, I own this rig for a reason. I've been planning on starting my own little thing, and I've been wanting to get that off the ground. But like, dude, like it's just, oh man,
Tough.
dreams and aspirations are one thing, but you gotta meet yourself halfway. It's one thing to dream it; it's another thing to do it. And it's really how coming up with ideas is half the battle, and the other half is all in execution. I haven't
Yeah.
had time to execute, so right now, I mean, I, my aspirations and goals and what I'm working towards, it's just like it's all up in the air still, and I really hate that because I hate the uncertainty and I hate the not knowing because that's what uncertainty means. Um, but I've just been working and just literally doing the same old thing I was doing on episode like 20 or whatever episode I was on. Actually, it was 20. I remember that. But yeah, it's just I'm still writing for the magazine, so that's awesome. Still just trying to find breakthroughs in the industry. It's getting to the point where I'm beginning to be able to starting to reach back out to promotional companies and things like that locally in town. Just trying to see if there's any job opportunities available because for a while it's like, I didn't want to come off as I've always wanted to come off as persistent because persistence is not a bad thing. Persistence shows enthusiasm, it shows work ethic, it shows drive. But it's like I also don't want to come across as that guy that doesn't understand that we're in a pandemic and right now everyone is grabbing at straws and I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to come across and be like, hey guys, job for me, right? It's like, no, dickhead, like
Yeah.
the world is on fire. So I really had to lay off the gas for a little bit, but things are it's time to be a little bit more persistent with it, and I don't know. I'm sure in the next 6 months I'll have new leaves overturned and new fresh fun things to talk about. But it's been a year, and I
Yeah.
still have this on my desk. For those of you listening to the audio podcast, it's a mask in my hand. So
Yeah.
same boat that everyone's in. I'm a normal, ordinary person, just a lot smarter than most people.
I think that is a good way to introduce our sponsor, Trojan. No, I'm just playing.
Oh, I've never used that sponsor. What do they do?
No, but actually, sponsors is a. Before I get into what I was going to say about what you just said, so I digress a little bit. I'm going to have Chris's little solar company sponsor my podcast, and so he's going to pay me a certain amount for each episode I do for every time I introduce his company, and every single every single person that I lead to him, I get a little bit of the commission. So,
There you go.
Chris is, if you guys are listening to this podcast, you already heard me sponsor Chris's solar company. So go check him out, Christopher Balchetti, solar salesman.
Right. How many lamps?
Break.
How many lamps do you have on you right now?
Lamps.
Yes. How many lights are currently on you?
I only have one lamp on me right now.
Okay. Electronics. Electronic lights.
Electronic lights.
How many sources of illumination?
6.
6. See people at home, you see how good the lighting is? You like that lighting? All that's powered by solar. I don't know the name of Chris's company off the top of my head, but boom. Name drop, ad read. Go with
But no, back to what you were just saying about you podcasting and everything. The last few months, what I've been realizing is like, so my friend Noah is starting a podcast about him and his friends are starting it and about the underdog. And so they're bringing on people they know about and like having them tell their underdog story. And they know some really important people. And so I plugged their podcast and I want to be a network kind of guy who can get other people started in their own niche. Cause I feel bad because everyone, like, when they're starting a podcast, they have like a niche and everything. And, like they want to go into a specific genre. And I don't have a genre. I kind of just like bring people on and talk to them. And I guess you could kind of like clump me with the Joe Rogan podcast. It's kind of in that category, society and culture kind of area. And of course I talk about philosophy and podcasts a little more because philosophy and politics, because I'm kind of like, that's my frame of education, but I don't really it's not really a podcast. It's just kind of like a conversation. And so what I want to do for people is help people start their actual podcasts, about something that they're actually important about. So I'm guessing you would do something with music and you would talk to people like you were talking about last time, and he wants to do this underdog. So one of the things that I want to get to is when this podcast this show that I do keeps growing, I want to start a bigger business to where I can help people create their own shows and have them underneath my show. That'd be super dope.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, build your whole little network out. I mean, for me, like it's sort of like Seinfeld in my mind. It's like the show worked for so long because it was a show about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a show about nothing. It was on the air for, I believe, 9 seasons, and is still the number one show syndicated worldwide still to this day. I mean, I believe the show ended in like 98, 99. I want to say 99's right. I could be wrong. But 20 years later, here we are. So I don't know. I think that for some it works for some, it doesn't work for others. Some podcasts, you should have a niche. You should have, a general theme to the podcast, something that every episode is about. And then I think others, if you just want to shoot the breeze with some cool people, I think that shouldn't be frowned upon or anything. It's like, I don't ever want to be in a position where I have an opportunity to interview somebody that's really cool, but I'm like, oh man, I don't think that would really fit with my targeted audience. So I gotta turn that one down. It's like, I don't think anyone like Joe Rogan or even people in the radio industry like Howard Stern, for example, would be anywhere near as successful if they limited themselves to that capacity. And I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone that is trying to do that, because I listen to those kind of podcasts. I love some podcasts like My Favorite Murder, for example, is one that jumps to mind, is the true crime one. It's like things like that are awesome. And if that's something you want to pursue, do it. And you can be very successful with it. I don't know. For me though, it's like, maybe it's just the ADD in me is speaking out, because I have such a hard time staying focused and paying attention on one thing that, I just want to have a big mixing pot of people and just see where everything goes and throw shit out and hope it sticks.
Yeah. I think that's an important distinction to make with this. I don't think people listen to my podcast because of me. And I don't want to be condescending, like when I say that, because too humble when I say that, because obviously they're coming back because it is my podcast and I have a little bit of part of it. But I think it's the fact of how smooth it flows. So one of the cool things that I've been noticing, just like with everything, is like when I talk to someone I don't know who's like super big in one area, they'll be like, wow, you're like, have all these like questions. Like I'm just a curious person. Like that's all it is. Like I just want to naturally know. And they always tell me like, oh, they go on shows and stuff, and like these people have like specific questions they're gonna ask, and it's just like drags on. Like, but with me, it just kind of flows. I think one of the attractive natures of certain podcasts like Joe Rogan or like the free flowing ones is that when you have an interesting host, they can keep the podcast going in a way where it gets the guest becoming the main force of the episode while keeping them engaged the entire time.
Right.
it's more about directing than it is about, I'm giving my tricks right now, but it's all about directing rather than it is about influencing yourself, letting yourself be it.
Right. It's also something that it truly does have to be organic if you want to have the guests, interested in.
Hey, you went out again, bro. God.
Anyway, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, people of Earth. I guess what I was saying was, if you're conducting interviews, it's important to have that set list of questions that you want to ask. More so as just like a roadmap of how you want to carry the conversation and how you want to keep things on track. But it does have to be organic, and you do have to keep questions flowing and keep them, relevant to what you're talking about rather than just changing directions, being like, so what you been working on lately? Oh, right, man. Awesome. So anyway, tell me a little bit about this too. It's like, I don't want to just shift gears left and right. I want to keep, it has to be a free flowing thing. And it also has to be fun and original. It's like, I don't want to interview people and ask them specifically the same thing they've been asked on the last 4 things they've done about if they're a musician, their new album coming up or whatever. I don't know. What's your favorite flavor Skittle? Tell me shit like that. It's people do interviews all the time, and I feel like, they probably somewhat dread them, but they understand them as necessary press and publication.
Yeah.
But, they can be fun too. It's like if you make it entertaining for them, then it's like, oh man, that was actually a good use of my time. I feel like that's always a good feeling.
One of the things that makes me want to throw up is when I see these little clips of these podcasts, right? And they have these little niches, and they be like, all right, final question. And then it's like the most like dog shit question I've ever heard, but it's like, it's a good question, but it's not the person saying it. They're like, all right, final question. If you were a genie, what 3 wishes would you love to grant? It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, honestly, you need to be slapped in the mouth. Like, that's a horrible question. It's a good question, but not in this circumstance. Like, you looked up what are good, interesting questions to ask. Like, you literally Googled that,
Plus, it's like, if you're a genie, it's like, what the fuck does granting wishes do for you? You don't get anything. I wouldn't want the wishes granted. I mean, if you're a genie, then basically what you're saying is, how do you want to twist someone's words to inevitably fuck them over?
No, dead ass, yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, I want $1 million. Boom. It's like, oh, well, all that money has actually been stolen from a local bank, and the police are currently actively tracking you down, dude.
You want to hear a joke I heard the other day?
Yeah, hit me.
All right. So a man walks into a bar.
Okay.
And he tells the bartender, hey, so if I can show you something you've never seen before, if I can show you something that you've never seen before, you have to give me a free drink.
Right.
He goes, okay, yeah, that's fine. So in the left arm of the man, he has a box. He puts the box down on the bar, and he opens the box. He pulls out a little piano, and behind it, he pulls out a little man, a little 12-inch man. The man starts playing the piano, and the bartender goes, wow, that's incredible. I've never seen that before. Here's your free drink. Hey, by the way, how did you do that? And the man who walked in the bar goes, a couple of days ago, I was walking by, and I saw this little lamp. So I rubbed it, and a genie came out, and he gave me 3 wishes. And he said, when I was done with it, give it to someone who did a good deed for me. So I thought I would give it to you. He goes, oh, thanks. So the bartender rubs it, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of a million ducks just started running around the bar. And he goes, what's wrong with this thing? I didn't wish for a million ducks. And the man who walked in the bar says, you think I asked for a 12-inch pianist?
Ah. Very good. Very good.
You like that joke?
I like that joke. That's a great joke.
It's not my joke.
That.
I saw it on TikTok. I just thought it was funny.
And you know what else I saw on TikTok? I saw a joke about a guy on the other end of the bar. There's a guy on the other end of the bar, right? And by the way, we should also start a podcast where it's just us telling each other jokes for about an hour and a half. Collin demands punchlines. So anyway, there's a guy on the other end of the bar. He's sitting there. He's having a couple drinks. He's having a good time. He notices on the edge of the bar there's a glass jar filled with $50 bills. I mean, there has to be thousands of dollars in there in 50s, just fucking stuffed. And he says to the bartender, he goes, yo, what's up with that jar over there? The bartender goes, yeah, you got to put $50 in, man, and then I'll tell you. So the guy's like, what the fuck ever. All right. So he keeps drinking, and then he's like, man, curiosity has the best of him. And he puts $50 in the jar. He goes, all right, I put the money in. Now tell me what's up with the jar. Bartender goes, all right, great. If you want to take that jar home with you and all the money inside of it, there's just 3 things we need you to do for the bar. First thing, stone-faced, you have to pound an entire bottle of scotch. 1 pull, no expression, down the hatch. Second thing, there's a bulldog out back. He has a loose tooth. We need you to get that tooth out for us. Third thing, and the final thing, upstairs, there's a grandma up there, and she hasn't done the dirty in a while. We need you to go up there and show her a good time. So the guy's like, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit. But he keeps drinking, and then after a while, he notices his tab's running up, and he goes, fuck it, I could use the money. All right. Give me the bottle of scotch. So the bartender gives him the bottle of scotch, gets down on one knee as promised. Glug, 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 does the entire bottle down, no expression on his face, blank face. Bartender goes, all right, man, great, that's step 1. All right, step 2, go on out back. So he goes out back, and they hear a bunch of pounding and kicking and screaming and yelling, and then after 20 minutes or so, the guy comes back in, and his clothes are all torn up, and he's covered in blood. And he goes, all right, that's done. Now, where's the grandma with the loose tooth?
Oh, dog fucking jokes. What a day.
Oh, yeah. I got a million dog fucking jokes. It's a field I consider myself an expert.
TikTok is hilarious, bro. It's the only place where, like, you can find every single type of genre.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I have so many really, really good, very inappropriate, terrible jokes that will soil my reputation if I say them on air, but I will tell you a bunch once we stop recording.
So let's talk about Texas. I know you wanted to talk about Texas.
Right. Everything's bigger in Texas, including the fucking COVID numbers after this week's announcement.
Yeah, that was insane. How do you think somebody like that, a governor of a state, justifies an unmasked mandate during a pandemic?
Well, I don't know anything about the Texas governor, but I envision him as Yosemite Sam. So I feel like if you don't know who Yosemite Sam is, he's the guy with the big red mustache from Looney Tunes. It's always chasing down Bugs Bunny.
No, I know who Yosemite Sam is.
Okay, gotcha. So I don't know. I mean, Texas it's very much Texas. I mean, I'm not saying that for the entire state because I know there's lots of places in Texas that are super progressive, like Austin, for example. From what I've seen online, a lot of Austinites that I follow on Twitter fucking hate this decision, and a lot of other people in Texas hate it too. And I from what I also understand, I know it's not like mandatory by law every place.
Yeah,
places can still ask you to wear masks. Like it's not like. If you run a business and ask someone to wear a mask, we will shut you down. Versus, if you run a business and you're not asking people, we'll shut you down like everywhere else in the world. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like that experiment would have gone better in a place that's more desolate. Like if we would have chosen Alaska. But
well, I don't think every single state had a mask mandate because if you go to Utah, I don't think they have a mask mandate.
Well, I know, there was that federal one in government buildings, which I understand because they're government buildings, but yeah. And as far as general public goes, I'm not quite sure. I know every place should have had one, and I know that lately COVID numbers have been on an extreme decrease, which is awesome. But that being said, it's like you don't get off the roller coaster when it's slowing down. You get off the roller coaster when it's stopped completely.
Well, not only that. We saw a decrease in numbers from January to February, and then it flew in mid-March to April because of flu season in the spring, the cold season in the spring, and we're not there yet. So I'm interested to see what happens in the next few weeks with COVID, because if it's true what we're saying that you can't get COVID again, it might flip-flop, and all the young people who are in college and going back to school right now might get sick because it's cold season again. It's allergy season. It's spring season.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, well, like I said, we just gotta wait and see. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's all up in the air. It's just like everything else this year. Texas is doing this, but at the same time, we're rolling out more vaccinations. So
Yeah.
or rolling out more vaccines, should I say? More vaccinations are being taken place. So,
Yeah.
it's it's not my place to have all the answers for that.
So, a question I've had for you for a while.
All right.
All right. Do you think that a lot of your information or like things you're interested comes from your dad? Because your dad does really cool things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes and no.
actually, before that,
Jesus fucking Christ.
what?
Actually, God damn, Colin.
Actually, before that, can you just give the listeners a little background of what your dad does and everything?
Yes, my dad is a farmer. He harvests lots of beets, squash, and rutabagas. No, my father has worked in media for his entire life. Not his entire life. He spent 16 years freeloading like the rest of us. But he started working at a so man, it's tough to tell this story because like there's like half of his career is like semi-relevant, half it's not. I guess I'll just fucking stop rambling. Cut this shit out. I'll start over. So
I'm leaving it. It's just an unedited conversation.
all right, fuck it. So my dad worked in the newspaper field, specifically as a sports columnist slash editor for 20 years, something like that. I mean, he did it. He worked for a paper in West Palm Beach, Florida when he lived there called the Palm Beach Post. And then when he moved out here in 1991, which is going to be 30 years this year in June, he got a job at the Las Vegas Sun. And then worked there for like my entire childhood, and then transferred 1 year, worked for a company called the Greenspun Media Group directly, and then from the Greenspuns went and works at his current job, which is an ad agency called R&R Partners in town. And he's been there for like 12 years, 12, 13, something like that. And yeah, so through that, I've had a lot of opportunity to like witness firsthand, like him, like coming home late, like going, because he'd have to go to like media events and things like that, and he'd have all of his like credentials on him and then show me all the photos, like famous people he met, like, in the morning and shit like that. And the main thing that's enabled me is, I've always been really, really, really interested in music. And my father, through working all these events and just working in media in general, being on email blasts and things like that, basically was able to meet so many different people, whether they're direct promoters or whether they work for PR groups, or if they represent, they can play 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with it, where this person represents someone who's on the same label, so they kind of tie it in. Long story short, I've had a lot of opportunity over the course of my life to get a lot of like comps into a lot of events and concerts that I've wanted to go to pretty much anywhere, and I'm very, very, very fortunate for that. And I've tried to remain humble and take as many other people with me to shows that I can, because it's like I don't want to use my powers for good
Definitely.
in that regard. But I remember being in elementary school riding around in my dad's old Cadillac. The Velvet Fog is what we called it, because that was the name of the paint that was on the fucking thing. It was like
Wow.
it was sort of like the same color of the shirt you're wearing right now. It was like a maroon / purple. And I remember rolling around to that, listening to 100.5 Jack FM. I believe it was 100.5. I think it was.
I think it was too.
Yeah. Rolling around with my dad, listening to Jack FM, and like every time a song would come on, I would ask my dad, "What's the name of the song? Hey, what's the song called?" And it's just like I just always had that hunger for it. And my dad obviously introduced me to music. When you're growing up as a kid, you listen to the shit your parents listen to. My mother was never really pop culture oriented, so she never really listened to anything, and never really had like certain movies playing, which I don't understand how. I don't get how I've never understood it, but to each their own. But yeah, so I developed that interest through that at a young age. But like I don't listen to. I'm not a carbon copy. I don't listen to everything he listens to, and we don't have the exact same tastes and interests like to a T. But I think that there's definitely. I think that planted the seed in me.
Mm-hmm.
I think my father planted a seed in me. I think that planted the seed in me, and then as I grew up and explored my own avenues,
Yeah.
that kind of allowed that to grow into what I'm doing now in the field that I'm currently in and the direction that I'm taking things. I don't want to work in advertising per se. I don't. But my
Whoever
dad,
does.
my fucking father, apparently loser. I don't know how he only wanted to make enough money to pay for this house and give me a comfortable childhood, but that's just that my dad was, as interested as I am in music. I have my entire room was covered in music posters
Yeah.
and autographed things and, signed CDs and shit. My father was interested in sports, growing up, a huge baseball kid.
WWE too, right?
Yeah, pro wrestling, football, all that shit. So my dad became a sports writer. And it's that simple. You do what you love. And if you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So,
Yeah.
that kind of.
It's a good quote, man. Honestly, we need to clip that because
Oh,
that
well,
is
yeah. Well, it's
that's
not
a
my quote.
TikTok.
I mean, people
No,
say
it's
that all
not.
the time. But yeah.
No, I know, but it's a good thing to say to relate to people. Keep going though.
Sure. Yeah. Listen to me, motherfuckers. You'll do well in life. Um, but yeah. That's just that. So I've pursued my own avenues and made my own connections and I think the one thing that I did pick up off of him that really helped me out is I learned the importance of networking, and I can't stress this enough to anyone who listens and anyone that meets me and this because that's all you do by making this podcast. It's all networking. That's it. Reaching out to guests, meeting people, they know someone who knows someone. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm not saying you don't know a lot, and I'm not saying school isn't important because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Go to school, kids. But
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
if you want to grow, the biggest way to grow is just talk to people and just get connected.
It's fascinating how
You'll
that
never know where it
is.
takes you.
It's fascinating how that school, that's all really education is, though. I mean, it's people who are smart in something telling other people how they are smart and why those other people can't be smart, if you really think about
Right.
it. Also,
Right.
anybody listening to this right now and thinks, why the fuck does he always put on these dumbass glasses? Like, I just want to strangle him when he puts them on. Motherfucker, I'm colorblind, bro. So these help me see color. So when he was talking about my color, I wanted to see the shirt I was wearing. And I haven't worn them in a while. So just so you guys know, you guys are dickheads. I know they're not the greatest looking glasses, but
it was a beautiful baby blue Cadillac, just like the color of your sweater.
let's talk about being colorblind for a second. Actually,
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Talk to
I
me about it.
haven't worn these glasses in a while, and I see them on my dresser, and I always I should wear those, but like every time I put them on, they just fascinate me, dude.
I wouldn't, if I were you, dude, I wouldn't live life without them. I really
It's really
wouldn't.
easy not to, bro. It's really easy not to. Like it's just like it doesn't affect me day to day, Not wearing these doesn't affect my day-to-day life, what affects me day to day is like decisions I make, how I think about the decisions I make, and how I go about my day. But wearing colorblind glasses doesn't really have an effect on that. So it's really easy to put it away and just let it just fade away. But every time I put them on, dude, like it just distinguishes color from each other. Like the best way I can describe being colorblind is like it kind of melds color together. And when I put these on, it just distinguishes like colors away from each other. Like they're just so different from each other.
Oh
It's
yeah,
fascinating. It's fascinating how like colors aren't the same, like they don't all just kind of meld together.
right.
They're all different. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating, but I mean, like they're all so similar too. Like yellow is so close to orange, which is close to red. I mean, if you go on a spectrum, it's like things very, very slightly, but also, um, you know,
Yeah.
very extremely.
Well, not only that, like, yeah, they're very similar, but like, think about it. Like, they're very similar, but you can tell the difference. They're
Sure.
very similar, and I can't tell the difference, you know?
I think it's also very cool that your glasses. Do they? I mean, I'm sure they just naturally have like that color lens on them, but they match your shirt perfectly, and I think that's kind of baller.
My girlfriend got these for me, and I remember the day I put them on, I was shocked, and I couldn't really like express how I was feeling because I couldn't really like explain it. And then I couldn't like stop. I couldn't stop. Like I watched the fireworks and stuff because I got them for the New Year's.
Sure.
Um,
I wouldn't. Yeah, dude, I seriously, it's a new world at that point. I wouldn't ever take them off.
you
I don't know
say
how to
that,
do it.
bro. I don't know. It's I don't know, bro. Honestly, let's talk about this for a second because I need to
Yeah,
talk about this. I I struggle with mental health issues, anxiety, especially and depression and
sure.
everything. And so the last few months, it's been really hard for me, especially just being away from home during all this stuff and being forced to do things that I'm not really comfortable doing all the time. And not saying like don't need to get out of comfort zone. It's just like it's hard getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that you're not comfortable with, especially when you're already fighting a battle with your head.
Right.
And so like the thing about like just being depressed, I don't know if you've ever struggled with depression. I hope you haven't, but it's like every single thing that's bad that happens to you, it's just another reason why you should jump off a bridge. And I say that in the slightest. I say that in the slightest terms ever because I know like suicide is a problem, but I'm saying that's what depression feels like. It feels like every little thing that happens to you bad is just another reason why you're insignificant and why you don't need to be here.
Right. No, I agreed. I've never really opened up too much about it publicly. Obviously, like your friends and close core know, but like I was in therapy last year. As recent as last year, and the only reason why I had to stop attending because it's really tough to find a good therapist, and it's really hard, and that's also a deterrent because it's like if people are seeking help and they finally find the motivation and enthusiasm because it is a really big and hard thing to undertake. It's not as easy as it sounds, just going out and finding someone and admitting all these flaws in yourself. um, but once you finally find someone, you find up the strength to do it, and you find someone, and that therapist doesn't really stick with you, like it just doesn't really work, and you guys don't have that connection. Oh my God, is it so fucking hard to find another one to even try to start again? Because it feels like it's like, well, that's hopeless and that's a lost cause. But it's like every therapist is different. Just like how not every human being that you ever meet in the world is going to be a friend to you. You're not going to strike up and create a friendship with every person that you ever bump into in a Walgreens or a coffee shop, or it's just like that. Some people are meant for you and some people aren't, and to find the ones that are meant for you to really help create change and create help, it's almost Herculean at times. It's really, really difficult. So like I said, the only reason why I stopped attending is because I ran into an issue with my insurance, which also fucking sucked, and it crushed me. And it sucked to the point where I was just like, well, fuck this, and I just haven't gone back. And that's not me being stubborn, and I probably should go back, but through the 8 or 9 weeks that I did go, it really did help change my perspective on things, and I learned a lot about myself. And one of the things that we talked about with her was, I like my room that I was living in, that I'm still in, it's the same room. I had the same furniture since I was like 11. And it's just like she kind of said to me like, what's your space like that you live in? And I explained to her, and she's like, well, have you ever thought about changing your space up to kind of reflect where you are now?
Match your maturity.
Um, yeah, exactly. Because it's like if you're not surrounded by like, if you're not in totally living where you want to be up here, you're not living there. In the space surrounding you, if that makes any sense. It's like your
Yeah, it
surroundings have to
does.
reflect where you are in life if you want to see any progress. It's so hard to see progress in yourself and making career moves and shit, and then coming home and everything's the same as it was yesterday. We always have to be living in tomorrow
Mhm.
if you want to make progress, if you want to move forward. So in that, and that was one of the small things that I took from that, and I took the ball and I ran with it. And it was hard. I blew it off for months after it happened, but eventually I found my testicles and I went to IKEA and I bought a bunch of shit, and then I built it, and then here I am. So it's just little things like that, and sometimes things take time, but what people have to realize is that everyone's running their own race, and it's not timed because there is no gold medal at the end because you're not beating anybody else. You're only beating yourself. So everyone's running their own race in which they're only guaranteed a participation medal. But because of that, you can finish that.
What? Hey, hold on. What is
Yeah.
the participation medal that you get at the end of life? A death certificate?
Yeah, it's called the IRS. They come for you at the end of life and they take all your fucking
No,
money.
I honestly though, on a real note, I think that participation medal is the birth certificate and the death certificate. Like your birth to life ratio is your participation medal. Like you lived, you did
Right,
live. You weren't,
right,
you didn't not exist. You did live.
right. And that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Yeah.
everyone runs the race because that's the only prize that is given. There is no need to take it any faster than you can handle. It's like just run the race at your own speed, pace yourself.
Yeah.
It's very easy in today's age of social media to see people online that are your age that are so much more successful than you are and to compare yourself to them and for you to tear yourself down. But you need to realize is that everyone that you see that's successful, they've been working on something for longer than you have. They have. They've been working on shit since they were 16. Shit just doesn't drop out of the sky for them.
Should be
And
fuel.
right, exactly. It should be fuel, but and that's not always the case. But what you also have to realize is that, you're not meant to be everyone else. Not everyone comes from the same situations in life and the same backgrounds, and you are perfectly on time for you. You don't have to live off of anyone else's schedule in the same way that nobody else has to live off of yours. It's like everyone's life is their own life, and what's meant to fall into place will fall into place. You know, um, if you're like you said, it should be fuel. If you get upset and you get depressed about seeing someone that's more successful than you are at that point in your at the same point in your current life, that just fucking go out there and get it. Just fucking stop moseying around. I get that it's not that easy. I understand that, but you got to meet yourself halfway if you really want to get anywhere. I mean, it takes blood, sweat, and tears.
It does.
If
Anything
you
does.
Anything does, and that's just not just a figure of speech.
No, it's
Those are
not.
ingredients. That's necessary. Sitting around crying about it, that's the tears part. Now you got to put in the blood and sweat. You know, Maybe not the blood. I mean, like, you know,
One of the
we're like,
fascinating things that I learned about people is that complicated things make people stronger. And it's so,
sure,
in things that they're afraid of, it's so like insignificant in the moment. You feel like it's the only thing that matters when you're afraid of something. You're like, I cannot do that. Like, I cannot do that. Or you're like, no, I'm passing that on. I got to do this. I just want to be comfortable. But it's like when you do get in those discomfort levels and you're afraid, that is when the best you comes out. It's
right.
wild. There's a happy medium though. Like you can't just let anxiety rule your life, but you also need to place yourself in anxiety moments so that you can get yourself stronger.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
But also, I think that you can't push those moments too.
No,
Like
you can't.
I think that everyone has their down days, and that when you're having a down day, you just gotta ride the wave. There's nothing you can do
Yeah.
about it.
No, you
Like
can't.
there's been so many times where I'd woken up, I'd recognized depression in myself, um, and all I wanted to do was lay in bed, and I've said no, fuck that. I'm gonna force myself to get out, get some fresh air, go to get something to eat or whatever. And like I would go to a restaurant and sit down, and I'd just sit down by myself, and I would just be miserable, and I would just say, I just want to go home and go to bed. This is a fucking terrible decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine, and I think that's okay to do that. And you're not giving into yourself by giving yourself that time. If you work out regularly and you go to the gym and you lift weights and you bust your ass and you work arms, the next day you're going to be sore. The next day you're going to want to take a rest day and take that day off. Now, you could go back and work legs, and then there's still things that you can do to remain productive during those days, but don't wear yourself out. Don't overdo it. Don't go back and work arms again. It's okay to have those rest days because we're resting. We're preparing for
Yeah.
tomorrow when we're going to go out and kick ass. Also, I think that it's important when you're having days like that too. It's like you also need to, I find that one of the things that always really helped me was to create just to get shit done, to create any sort of feeling of accomplishment in yourself, even if it's the smallest thing. Make a to-do list with 3 things on it. Wake up, take a shower, always number one. Always number one. For whatever reason, I feel better after a shower. Number 2, Mainly because I'm in love with the image of myself naked. Number two, uh, just go out and go to the store, buy a snack. Like, because it's important to eat. Also, that's another thing people don't talk about during depression is how absent appetite is, and that's a scary thing because that can lead to other things like eating disorders and things that'll long last whatever you're going through. But anyway, yeah, make sure to go out and eat. That's always step two for me. And then step three is that's a flex spot, whatever you got. Tidy up your room if you can. Send an email that you've been meaning to send. The littlest things can make you say, well, at least I did some shit today. And I wasn't just I wasn't just totally out of my element and useless. And maybe I wasn't as useless as I was telling myself that I was. That's the biggest thing. You have to create things to counteract what you're telling yourself in your head. You know, oh, I'm fucking miserable, I'm worthless. Well, maybe no, I'm not, because I just did these things today that, you know, I
Mhm.
nobody made me do them but me.
So I like what you're saying, bro. Like I feel it like deeper than you know. I'm gonna give you a story. This is a crazy story, honestly. A couple days ago, I think it might have even been yesterday. Maybe it was 2 days ago. I think it was Monday. I think it was Monday. Maybe Tuesday. No, I think it was Monday. I was driving and I've been feeling so depressed lately. Like I it's been bad. I've been struggling with some shit. And I was driving and I was just thinking about like I'm done. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I hate it. And I was just driving, and I went and got Dutch Bros, and I was just driving back, and I was just feeling like insignificant, like nothing I did mattered. I was just done, with how I felt, and I was just like, I can't feel this way anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm done. And so I pull up to my house, and my coach sends out this my coach sends out this picture and stuff. And so every week there's 4 new guys who are like boxers of the week, like just like guys who've been grinding on the football team. And I was one of those guys, and I just looked and I saw myself, and I was like, I was just like, damn,
Yeah,
everyone's recognizing like how hard I work, and
right.
I got like a little jolt of energy, and that like helped me. I was like, I really needed that. I was like smiling, and then I went inside, and my friend who has been dealing with depression, and he's been dealing with some. I'm not gonna say what he's been dealing with, but
Sure.
his life is tremendously like external causes. I'm not gonna say in the head it's easier than mine or anybody else's, but his life externally has been way harder than a lot of other people's.
Right.
And he was going through it, and like he just sat there and like he like vented to me and everything like that. And he was like, I'm done. I was like, you can't say that, and I told him why he was wrong and everything like that. And he started thinking about it, I think, and he was just like, all right, and it was good. We had a great conversation. It was a very long conversation. And I thought to myself, why can't we have those conversations with ourselves? The conversation when someone's like, I'm done, I don't want to be here anymore. When you're a friend, and you're like,
Right.
don't talk like that, It's like, imagine like how hurt everyone would be. Like we need you here,
Right.
Imagine if like if you told yourself that, 99.9% of suicides would be prevented if we had that internal voice telling us we mattered as much as we would tell our friends they matter, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's just that as I think that I speak for everyone that has mental health issues, and maybe not everyone, but the majority of people, because yes, I'm sure there are some people out there that really just don't have any friends that are really all alone. But and I'm not saying that those people don't matter, but I'm just saying for the majority of us, I think that all of us are the first person to tell ourselves that we don't matter, but simultaneously also the first person to tell our friends that they do matter. And those things can't coexist. They just can't. I when you're dealing with mental health issues and you have that feeling of I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this. Let's call it a spade a spade. I want to kill myself. Um, you have to put other people and other things above you, because
Mhm.
when you're having those feelings, you're basically saying that I'm the only thing that matters right now. I'm my biggest problem. This is it. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to throw everything away because it's all about me. And you have to take a step back and realize that there are people that you have to put above you, whether it be your friends, your family, your significant other, your fucking dog, Wheel of Fortune every night at 7:30, whatever the hell you have in life that you gravitate and that you cling on to, you have to put above you. And I think the quickest way to kind of figure out what kind of those what people or what things that those things are going to be for each and every one of us is to ask ourselves the question, do I love someone, or what do I love? Because I guarantee you, if you ask any single person, do you love someone, the answer is going to be yes. They'll tell you who they love, and then, well, it's simple enough that if you love someone, then somebody has to love you. That's just what it comes down to.
Not necessarily, bro. I will say there are some circumstances where people love other people and nobody loves them.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think that everybody is loved by somebody, whether they recognize it or not, or at least they have been. I mean,
Have been at least, yes, I agree.
have been at least. Maybe there are people in situations where both their parents are gone and they don't have any fucking friends or whatever. But I mean, that's when the dogs and the Wheel of Fortune at 7:30 and
Yeah.
your favorite book comes into play or whatever. It's like whatever you have to not let down and not disappoint. That's what you have to put above yourself. And I'm not saying you have to put yourself at the bottom of the list of things that are important to you, but I'm saying that you can't be number one. You just fucking can't be.
Yeah.
You know?
I had a feeling today.
I think that's. Oh, sorry. I was going to add on and say I think that's the case for mentally healthy people too. I'm not just saying if you're, if you go through if you've been through the ringer and you go through your emotions that applies to you only. If you're mentally healthy and you really do have a great self-image and things are going well and you feel happy in life, that's awesome. You still can't be number one. Don't be an egotistical prick. Always put yourself top 5, never number 1.
So today I was sitting in class and I had one of those thoughts where I was like, God, this person is disgusting, not in a bad way. Just
Sure.
like, how do you let that happen,
Right.
But then I started thinking how I've been feeling lately and how they must feel about themselves and how they probably feel like shit looking at themselves in the mirror and how they're probably going through something just as bad as I am, maybe worse in their head.
Right.
And I thought, maybe me thinking this isn't the greatest thing to think because I call myself like fat sometimes and I'm not fat at all. Or
Sure.
like I call myself smelly one time and I'm not smelly. And I call myself ugly sometimes and I'm not ugly,
Oh, dude, I'm definitely smelly sometimes. There are so many times where it's like, even like that list of to-do list, like shower number 1, it doesn't happen every day, sometimes. And I try to keep it every day, but sometimes it just doesn't fucking happen. Sometimes you ain't got the juice and you just got to relax and you just got to rest.
You know what? I have to say this right now because I'm glad it's been happening lately and I don't think it happens enough. Do you know who the majority of people who commit suicide are? Men.
I was going to say men specifically in our age range, right?
Men that are in their young adults. And it's because of this idea. I'm going to fucking rant real quick. Shut the fuck up, liberals. Shut the fuck up. I get your guys' lives are hard. I get it. Everybody's lives are hard. But just because you're someone who has color to their skin, woman, maybe you don't identify with the normal gender means, does not mean straight white men fucking suck. I hate to say that. The leading cause of suicide, I'm not saying this just about white men, but I'm saying the leading cause of people who commit suicide are men. The number one people who commit suicide are men, right, in our age range.
Sure.
And me as somebody who is intelligent and stuff, countless times I've been in class and they have said something about my ethnicity or me being straight and a male. Like, I mean, obviously it's not the worst, derogatory, oppressive term, but like everyone's like, it's deemed okay, to like be derogatory towards men. It's like, listen, I don't have the greatest time upstairs in my own head anyways. I don't need you bullshitting me. I get you don't either, but like that's what being a person is. And so men, and I'm gonna go back to what I was saying, you know, I hate this idea that men have to be like strong and they can't show their emotions, and that to be a man is to not ever deal with anything in your own head and not be afraid of anything, because it's hard, you know.
Sure.
And
And then also, not to cut you off, but
no,
adding
you're
on
good.
what you're saying, when men do step out and they do show the softer side, softer in quotation marks, side of themselves, they're ridiculed. You know, look at Harry Styles stepping out wearing a dress. Do you think
That's a
he
little
got
different.
applauded? I mean, not
Yes,
necessarily.
I
I
think
mean,
he got applauded.
he got applauded by some people, but I also seen him get torn down. It's a little different, but I mean, it's along the same lines
Yeah,
of men have to be strong and you know, men can't show a weak side of themselves.
I think it's becoming easier. Like
Not that that's a weak.
for Dak Prescott coming out and saying that he's been dealing with mental health, that was one of the coolest things I've ever heard, because,
Sure.
you know, I could have used a professional athlete coming out and talking about mental health when I was really bad dealing with it in high school and middle school. Kevin
Yeah.
Love finally did in 2016, but by that point, like I was already like head over heels, like dealing with it. Um, mental health is something that is no one really, I think it's like the leading. I heard Theo Vaughn say this on one of his clips. I know this is true to me too. I know more people who have overdosed during COVID than have died by COVID.
Sure.
I know of at least 3 people who I didn't know them particularly, but I knew like through other people who passed away during COVID.
Right.
I knew
One.
Gabby.
I was gonna say one very recently. You know.
I knew Gabby, and we all did.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, that other kid, Dylan through AV and all them. There, he was close.
Never met him. Never even heard of him.
Neither.
But I'm sure he was a cool kid.
I definitely heard of him. AV would always post him, and
You
then
know, it's just I'm not saying he was a nobody. I'm just saying our paths
yeah,
never crossed. But I'm
yeah.
sure he was a cool guy. I'm sure if I would have met him, I would have struck up a conversation with him. You know.
And then my friend Matt, who's my roommate, one of my roommates, one of his friends from back home passed away, overdosing. I think there was one more that I'm forgetting, but like that's not because they're not passing away just because they're addicted to drugs. You get addicted to drugs because you're addicted to not feeling the pain you feel in your head. Really,
Right.
and I've dealt with people that I know passing away, and one of the things that I've always thought is like, you know, maybe we should stop ridiculing people for their life decisions, because we really don't know what's going on in their head.
Sure.
Life is hard. Life is suffering. Life is shitty. But like, we got to deal with that shit, because like if you're gone and before you're supposed to be gone, it never is the right time. But I mean, like 20s is not the right time.
Right.
You're gone before you're supposed to be gone. That shit's going to hurt everybody for the rest of their life.
Sure. I mean, in some instances, there are some silver linings to it. I'm not saying it's a good thing that anybody dies, but it's, it can help motivate and
Wake
inspire
up
people
call.
to lift up the list. Yeah, wake up calls and things like that for the people
Yeah.
around them. But man, it's also like that's even those silver linings are always making something out of nothing. I mean, that always sucks, and nobody should go in their 20s. I agree. Certainly, by their own decision, let alone an external force like that.
Do you believe in God, Sal?
Oh man, that's a tricky one. I was never raised religious, so I never gravitated toward any religion, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with whoever listens. I really have no intent to become a religious man in the course of my life. I mean, if things change with me, but I'm not an atheist, and I don't denounce anything. I let if God is good for you, then God is good for you. I haven't personally I have never made any personal connection to things, but
Yeah.
I also do think that I think things are a little too
Perfect.
too too complicated to just be explained by what we know. It's like we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
You know, simply put, things are a little too complicated in terms of like creationism and all that, and that's a whole other road to go down. But
Yeah.
long story short, I believe I don't denounce the existence. I believe there may be a God. I've never followed, and I've never had any religious upbringing or any religious practice. But go on.
So I've had some experiences with God.
Fuck, I hit my mic.
You're good. It wasn't loud.
Sweet.
But I've had some experiences with God. I'm pretty religious, I would say, and I talk to God when I can, but I usually talk to him in the bad times and really never in the good times, and I feel bad about that. But I've tried to be better. But